Us moving Maldi forward, and a summary of where we've been and suggestions and ideas for where we need to go. Dr. Sharon Lynn Harrison.
Thank you. That was very kind. One of the things I've learned in being a researcher and evaluator is you have to have very big flexibility. As you'll recall, I started out, I was about to say Friday, but I think it was Monday. I was Monday afternoon, and now I'm here, and I'm very flexible, and that's fine, because I think that when you talk about the data, it needs to be the right time. And I think this is a better time to talk about all of the things that we've learned from the Maldi experience. I am, too, just thrilled to be a part of this, to see the growth and development of each and every individual that participated in the project. I even think about Corey. He's not in the room, so I'll go ahead and talk about him. He was just this kind of shy guy when he first came, and to see him up here presenting, and Jackie, who certainly wasn't shy, but knew what she wanted to do and attacked it, and Tiffany and all the others, and Gail, who I've talked to. It's just been amazing that each of you, to see that you've taken your projects by the reins and have led it to the point where it is. And I'm just so excited to know that one day you're going to be on the Oprah show. And when you get there, that's always my big goal. Don't forget to call me, because I want to be in the audience at least. But seriously, I do think that you have contributed greatly to the field. Each and every one of you are leaders. You were leaders when you walked into this project, because to take something like this on and to say that I want to challenge myself, you already have to have the spirit of leadership in you. And so while we would love to take great credit for your accomplishments, and that feels really good to do that, we know that a lot of it is the spirit that you have in you already. And so I know that this is just a great beginning, and we look forward to hearing so much more from you. But as in all good projects, anybody that's into data should know that best practices can only get better. And I'm a huge individual. I'm feeling like you've got to hear, what else can you do? What else can you do? What else can you do? My team back at Public Research gets tired of me saying, well, what else can we do to just make that better? And one of the things that I'm so excited about is just the use of data here. Data, to me, is the way to go. I was going to say data is the dog, but data is the way to go. And to hear all of you looking at data and thinking about it, truly, to me, that is the essence of leadership, is to be able to not make decisions based on your gut. Although your gut's huge, a gut is important for making real good decisions. But people for so long have just left data back here and just operated on their gut. And I think that's what led to this whole age of accountability, this push, evidence-based practices, looking at data. So as true leaders on the horizon, your use and knowledge of data is very impressive. And again, I look forward to where we're going next. So first of all, I want to begin by congratulating you. You've worked very hard to get here. I know, and Janice, and I know just how much. You've planned your study, started out with just an idea. What do you want to look at in your states? What would you like to approach? What would you like to make a difference in? And then you went about studying and collecting data and saying, this is really an issue in my state, and I need to do something about it. Evaluating. I know a lot of people are sometimes demystified by the whole evaluation process, but you all really took it on and say, let me try this strategy. Let me learn from them. Let me look and see just how is it making a difference. And now coming here and then strategizing, strategizing, coming up with a plan for what you wanted to try to see things happen different, and now sharing your results. And each of us have been touched by your results. You know, I've learned, I've been taking notes. It's going to hugely impact the work that I'm doing for the NRC. One of the things I told each and every person is you're the expert. You're the expert in your topic. You're the expert in your topic that you addressed in your state. And so feel very comfortable as you continue to forge ahead. You know what you did, you know what you approached, and you know what you learned. And so each of us have been, our information, our work experiences have been enriched by the information that you've given us today. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about some of the feedback we've gotten from both mentors and mentees. Again, evaluation is really critical for understanding just what's going on. So we took some time and we did some interviews with the mentors when we first started the project out this phase. And we learned that 89% of the mentees had already participated at the beginning of the project in some new experiences such as networking, community participation, and even some negotiations. They've done some presentations. And that also agencies had revisited their daily practices, and peers and mentors were supportive and interested. And I think that shouldn't be on that slide, so I'll read it again where it's supposed to be. Also, mentors made the following comments. The project has contributed positively in their practice area. They also felt like it gave their mentee greater visibility, and that's important, that mentors were allowed to get up, to have their issue, and to have that opportunity as leaders to bring an issue to the forefront of an organization. And then one person said their mentees' professional goals and aspirations have grown since participating in the project. I think one of the things that Maldi really does is it takes the potential leader and it makes them see that they can go beyond what they really believe they can do. And again, you have shown that to us today and throughout the last year. Mentors also said it has been a real challenge, but also a joyful experience. And it has provided opportunity for their further learning as well. As again, you're teaching us. We're learning so much from this experience, the mentors and the staff involved in this. But they also suggested in the future it would be helpful to bring all the mentors together either via a conference call or in person as an opportunity to share their experiences as mentors. And I think that's a very, very good suggestion. And one of the things that we do at that I do with the National Child Welfare Resource Center for Adoption and all of the clients that we provide evaluation support is that we keep the data right in their face. And we also keep what they said they were going to do right in their face. So we do it with a smile on our face. People are always so quick to write these grandiose proposals, and then they float off into a world of now I'm funded, what else? And here we come as evaluators and say, guess what you said you were going to do, and now how are you going to do it? And so we continually do that. We do that with this project as well. It's a lot of fun, and we'll be taking all of your data as we do continually before the Maldi project to keep them informed in how to make it better. Now, we just know you love those logs. The mentees had electronic logs to complete, and we knew you loved them because you filled them out after much conversation and calls. A lot of people said, why did you have the logs? And after the first round, the first phase, there was some concern about the logs. But really, logging is a way of keeping you reflective of your work. It makes you sit down and say, now where am I? How am I doing? What do I need to do? And we look at your logs and then make some decisions about how you're doing as well and whatever other supports you need. But we learned from you that, again, and here's where that slide should be, that you said that agencies revisited their daily practices just from the work that you had started to do as a mentee within your organization. Now, that's huge, that organizations are going back and looking and seeing how they can change their daily practices. I like that a lot. And that mentors and actually peers that you were working with in your organization were supportive, interested, and even motivated by the conversations and the work that you were starting. Effective strategies were shared, that you were talking among your organizations and finding out about better ways to do things, and that you yourself felt that your leadership skills were already strengthened. And again, a lot of this data we collected at some of the beginnings of the projects. What did you say some of your challenges were? Of course, time constraints, managing with work responsibilities. And we heard that in any good thing, as you know, requires a little bit of sometimes burning the candles almost at both ends. But you did it. Also, trust issues in data collection. And that's something you're going to find all the time as you push yourself forward as a leader, as you use your data. But I like how you strategized. Like, I don't know who that was that said they address the envelope a little differently to see if it could be open. I mean, those are the kinds of things that you'll think about as you're moving into your leadership, continuing to get feedback on what you're doing as well as getting feedback before you do anything. Also, keeping staff participants motivated and involved was a challenge, but isn't that what a leader is all about anyway? And also moving from the learning to the doing phase. I will say that's kind of where Janice and I felt a lot of times you were just right there sitting on the learning tadpole, and we're trying to push you into the doing phase, and we'd come back and say, you're doing okay, you're doing fine. Now you're ready to go ahead and do something. Oh, wait a minute, I got to think about this. I want to learn more about that. But I think all in all, it was really a really great time that you took to learn, because it really was important to make sure that you were very well informed before you moved to trying to strategize and make a difference. We also ask you to tell us a little bit about your outcomes, what has happened as a result of your work. And one person said, I've been able to maintain ongoing communication with case managers and supervisors. The case managers are motivated because now they know that the project can and has worked. And again, that's an important part of being a leader, is showing people that something can work, taking that risk, going out there and trying something and making a difference and getting other people motivated too. Here's another wonderful outcome. Someone said, as a result of Maldi, they're able to openly discuss the field of adoption and the issue of disproportionality now at the state legislator level. And these are things that you said. Here's a very good comment. I realize that a leader should always look for ways to improve their leadership skills. Now, in keeping with the spirit of good evaluation practices, we also went back to the Phase 1 Maldi people. And they were so happy to hear from us, as you can probably guess. And we said, we'd like to know what's going on with you now. You've been in this project. How has Maldi sustained your leadership development? What's going on? We heard from 9 respondents. 100% of them said they were satisfied with their Maldi experience, and they also felt that it effectively addressed their goals in developing leadership skills. 56% said the Maldi experience changed their career goals. Of those that didn't, they said, well, they had high aspirations, so it really didn't make a difference, really, because they were already looking at ways to grow. But one person said, as a result of my experiences, I am more focused on working with minority children in care and am more aware of those things that affect them. And I am more focused on being in the management field as it relates to adoption for minorities. And isn't that what it's all about? 56% again said it changed their career goals. Maldi helped change the focus on where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do within my agency. I know one person talked about the fact that, someone else said that yesterday too, that they weren't interested in being in adoption, but once they went through the Maldi experience, that was a similar instance in this comment, that now they feel stronger about working in the field of adoption. Here's one that said prior to Maldi, they didn't want to work with older youth in adoption. They weren't comfortable working with youngsters and teenagers. But after going through the sessions and looking at disproportionality, they got charged up, lit a fire. This is the one I love the best, because this is really what it's all about. 75% of those said that it impacted outcomes for youth and families in the child welfare system. That one is my favorite. I think that Maldi helped to get children and youth in focus in terms of looking at outcomes. They further said that prior to that, it was just kind of like the day-to-day thing, but now this made us go back and look at what are we really making a difference and what outcomes are we impacting. Back to the data. 78% of them said that it was useful for preparing them as emerging leaders in adoption. And I know the National Child Welfare Research Center, and Janice is the Maldi coordinator, they're always looking at, is this everything that should be talked about? I mean, I think, making sure that you're knowledgeable of adoption, but then also going back and making sure, are your leadership skills being dealt with? And so I know that to hear that from this finding is a very important outcome for them. Now, your leadership assessment, leadership competency assessment, leadership competency for manager assessment, the Booth instrument. We tried that this phase, and I think in a lot of ways it was challenging because it's a 360 model, which meant you were supposed to get feedback from looking at yourself and getting it from your peers, and that ended up being quite a challenge. And we didn't have enough data because, of course, we didn't have enough data to do a lot of really complex statistical analyses. But what I did want to do is just look and see what kinds of potential changes did we see in the way you and others rated yourselves on some of the particular items within the instrument. Now, that leadership competency assessment is yours to keep. Yes, you can have it. And I think it's a wonderful tool for you to look at personally what you need to work on in terms of your leadership skills. It's not for us to bring here and talk about, but instead it's for you to look at prior to Maldi and after Maldi, and with you working on those particular things that were your skill interest, what differences did you see? But when we looked at some of the changes overall, we looked at some particular items within the instrument, and we saw growth in those. For instance, we saw growth actually in every item. I think there was one item which stayed about the same, and I think it was your knowledge or your knowledge of the industry didn't really change. Matter that you exhibited your knowledge in the industry. That pretty much you were doing that prior to Maldi, and you continue to do that. But when we talk about anticipating needed changes, we saw that there was a change in that. The knowledge item there talks about communicating your knowledge of what's going on within the organization. Looking at your goals, that talks about communicating how goals relate to objectives. We saw growth there. Also, taking risk on promising ideas. We saw a nice growth there as well, and I think that's very, very important, as well as the last one, support, gathering support for your ideas, that there was a difference in how you were assessed on that among your, your self-assessment, along with others, how you did on that, and how it looked after you had participated in the Maldi and post-assessed. So we did get to see some interesting changes there. So in the spirit of evaluation, we will be contacting you within about 12 months to get information from you. Typically what we do is we send you an electronic survey, and we ask that you complete it as soon as possible, or we'll do interviews as well, with whichever we decide. And so we want to hear from you as well when you go back, and to see what different things are happening in your lives as a result of the work that you've done here at Maldi. Just a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the design phase here. I've done a lot of work in leadership and mentoring projects. And so when we were talking about the Maldi project, we looked at some of the best practice elements that needed to be in place. And those elements included learning opportunities to be mentored, on-the-job experience, your action research projects. Those are pretty much what the business industry is using right now to do complex leadership development. Then looking at some particular competencies, and then looking to see what kind of outcomes occur. So this is kind of like a basic leadership development model that Maldi used as well. So when we talk about development, of course, you're talking about your institutes again, your mentoring, being involved in the leadership development, your e-learning. Those are your live meetings where you got on the phone with Janice and I and spent a lot of time walking through your project, learning about action research. Then your one-on-one support, where we try to get you to get on the phone with us and talk through your projects. As I said, your reflective journals and logs, and then your on-the-job projects through your action research. And these are all parts of pretty much what, again, is happening in business and industry. The only thing that is not that we didn't include is like rotations, where a lot of times in business and industry within an organization, they'll let an individual rotate through different job assignments as they're trying to develop them as leaders. But pretty much the Maldi model encompasses all of the things that are happening in terms of best and promising practices in leadership development. And these are some of the competencies, and these are taken from the Booth instrument. Looking at, as we work with you, are you going to be able to now have an opportunity, envisioning opportunities? You know how to take opportunities and create a vision. Can you communicate effectively? Are you writing and communicating yourself effectively? And I will have to say I'm very impressed with how the presentations went today and yesterday. Again, I thought that you communicated very well, your projects, where you went, your findings, your concerns. Are you innovative and willing to take risk? Again, I saw a lot of that. And how about your problem solving and decision making? And that was all the conversations and the institutes were all about. Are you able to plan and pull people in and collaborate? And just how well do you manage conflict? How about how well you develop teams? And are you prepared to coach? One of the things I want to talk about before we leave is you're reaching back, because now that you're here, you're going to be the coaches and the mentors that others are going to look to learn more about, again, the things that you have expertise in that you've developed. As you're working with your teams, you know how to do feedback. Have you developed standards of performance? And again, all of these things are competencies that are part of the Booth model. And these are talking more about the leadership competencies. Of course, there's another set of competencies in terms of you being a person in the field of adoption, a leader in the field of adoption. And these are some of the outcomes, of course: leaders that are diverse and representatives of the children in care, knowledgeable and well-informed, and of course, well-prepared. And of course, the biggest outcome, improved outcomes for children and youth in the child welfare system. So what's next? Well, you'll be happy to know that in lieu of the logs, we've come up with a very good idea of how to get some more feedback from you, because we know that the logs, with all of the time shifts and everything, and trying to keep up with where you were with in terms of your project, some of the timelines had to be changed. And so we've come up with another way of getting some data from you. Pretend that there is no limit on funds. What we want you to do is to give us some ideas. Now, I want you to feel very comfortable in this room, even though the director of the NRC is in the room and the coordinator, even myself. I want you to, and the cameras are on, just ignore all of that, pretend we're on Oprah already. I want you to go ahead and to just have a wish list. If there was something else in developing you that could have been done, if there was some other activity besides the institute, on the job, one-to-one, maybe you needed to fly to Hawaii for a weekend and sit on the beach and think, what else could we have done in the Maldi project to develop you? What are some other activities we could have done? That's the first thing I want to know. So if you think about that, a hand up already.
The first thing I'd like to say is, that I think the program is just amazing, and it was a wonderful opportunity. I know that both Lynn and I had to get out of some of our comfort zones in order to do this. And I think, when you talk about risk taking and all that, it was an incredible opportunity. So I appreciate that. I also wanted to say that one thing you may want to consider for the future is perhaps having conference calls with the mentors and, process, so we can talk about things that we're, any type of issues or barriers we're coming up against, and so that we as mentors have that kind of time reserved for supporting each other and our own development as well. Okay. So thought.
Thank you. Gail?
I'm thinking along the lines of the leadership assessment, and even though I've reviewed it, I think getting feedback, direct one-on-one feedback, perhaps with our mentor or with you or Janice, would be helpful to me, and see what areas that I can work on from the data that was collected in that to move forward.
From the post?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. LCM post feedback. Any other activities that you've heard about, even if you've heard about some other leadership development efforts and sounds like it.
So, because now you've gone through 2 phases of the Maldi, I think one of the nice things to happen in about 12 months is to actually do a reunion to bring the participants back just to find out where they're at. Has the process continued? What new barriers perhaps have been developed because of that? And see if there's any suggestions. How do we go beyond even that phase to continue the process?
Okay, thank you. Tiffany?
Had you ever thought about if you guys were to continue Maldi pairing up? Let's say that we are now mentees, but the next phase, making us mentors, and continue to work collaboratively on what we've started already instead of starting anew. Okay. Just to expand on it with our new person that's chosen, and we work as their mentors and work with them on what we've already started.
In Connecticut, my division developed a mentoring program for staff, and what we have built into the project, what has been very helpful, is to have built-in sort of senior level buy-in. So what you could do is, in part of the infrastructure, make it mandatory that somehow the project is presented to senior management so that they know about it in the beginning, and to see what kind of buy-in you could get. For us, that has been, it's been key, because since they're brought in the beginning in a formal way, the buy-in is there. And I think that in these projects, when you don't have the senior buy-in, they can go astray. So maybe you can build that into the infrastructure.
So when you say senior buy-in, tell me particularly who you're
For me,
talking
it's commissioner level.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I have built into my program, we have the mentees shadowing commissioners and some of the things that they do. But what I'm suggesting is that even if you do a presentation to senior level staff, they all know about it, they all come on board, you might get support from people in a different kind of way.
You're going to say something, Natalie?
So you're saying actually in regards to the action research, because part of the buy-in that the way you were allowed to come into the program is that I actually made contact with every state's child welfare director. But I don't know from that point in time when they signed off what happened after that. So even making formal presentations regarding your on-the-job assignments or some kind of way to keep them in the loop as to what's going on, because gotcha. Very good. Very good.
Very good. I'm sorry.
The need to actually highlight the Institute's historical and current featuring on the gateway, the federal gateway,
Okay.
and encourage the states to take a look at that information to see the demonstration projects that have happened,
Okay.
some promising approaches, some trends, and there are some themes, certain themes to various projects that can certainly serve a benefit from one state to another.
Okay.
Such as the disproportionality project,
Right.
yada, yada, et cetera. So I'm just suggesting that we feature, highlight, and celebrate those successes, but allow each state to know that Maldi did make a difference.
Okay.
And that there are some opportunities across various states that other states may want to take a look at. Because, for example, recently I was on the Gateway, and I was just reading about the December 2007 promising approaches across child welfare that was just featured in December of 2007, and somehow I missed it at that point that it was announced. But I believe it was Oregon or Oklahoma has contact guides on visitation issues. And so I was able to contact that state and get all their materials so that I could look at that to see how it might be adopted in Ohio. So I was just thinking that we may want to just spread it further for more visibility and for further learning across various states.
Okay, very good. Mention the gateway on there. Okay.
I'll just share with you. Go ahead. I'll share with you really quickly in terms of visibility. We do have an article in the Children's Bureau Express in December, and if you read that article, it will lead you back to our website where you will have an opportunity to look at last year's presentations and your presentations as well.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
I think that's awesome. Heidi, I wanted to ask you, I was just thinking, the collaboration that we have at the national level with our judicial partners, one of the things that really helped in Oregon, as Corey mentioned when he was speaking, was that the court system the timing was just ready and ripe to partner on his venture and his project. And I'm just wondering if at the national level, do we have with the court improvement projects, et cetera, that awareness of Maldi and what's happening, and are the projects that have been done here in the previous Maldi session been shared with that entity?
I was just saying to Natalie just now that we just started talking about how we're going to do next year's policy to practice, and I think we're going to combine it with another meeting. And we were talking about having the child welfare directors in the courts there. So I think that would be a perfect opportunity to have a Maldi presentation of some type. So, we'll be talking about it, but I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if disproportionality is, it's not just in our system, and if they're looking at it, then they can benefit from the work that's been done from the Maldi efforts, both the previous session and this one.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Could you summarize your comment? We just want to capture it here. Angela, yeah. Just give us the snippet.
Collaborate at the national level with our judicial partners across the country and share with them what Maldi has done so that it can enhance the efforts that they're doing independently as well as conjointly with their state child welfare agencies.
Very good.
I wanted to mention, and Heidi did touch on this, but to have some key Maldi presentations at the practice to policy dialogue. I'm not sure if it happened this year. I wasn't there, but that would be great if we could do that in the future.
That's a great idea.
Also with Heidi, and I don't know what the possibility. I know you're just famous now. The possibility of this is, but I know that HHS has the diligent recruitment and things like that's going on right now with some of their opportunity grants, and a lot of the diligent recruitment certainly focused on disproportionality. But as you can tell by a lot of our projects, it was not the recruitment efforts that were focused on. It were other internal ideas and projects, and to look into further developing different types of opportunity grants, preferably giving it to us that are around this table, but if nothing else, to develop other opportunities that expand on what HHS gives money for the opportunity grants.
If you could think about what else you might want to learn, what other competencies, when you walk out of this room, you gained a lot of competencies, but what are you still feeling a little unsure about based on all that you learned at Maldi that we may be able to help you with next time?
I was just thinking that each state that made the commitment to partner in this endeavor, that the states need to give a response back.
Wow.
Whether you were a mentor or otherwise, I think that the states need to hear about the outcome. How does it benefit the state, short-term or long-term, and what have been the impacts from the partnership? I think that that's a real critical link that must be present to make it more real for both the mentor and the mentee, that the state has given a response.
Very good. I like it.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was going to say. Even though I was a mentor 100 years ago, that it seems to me, given the scope of the projects, that that's more even important than the buy-in, because I know we had to have it in the beginning. But do they really know what came out of what it is? And I suspect that's sort of depending how far up it went. You know, like in some places, somebody really high up would love to know that somebody in their state did an excellent job. So if you send it to a certain level, it'll get up a little higher probably. But that's the thing. How do you link it back, what's been done, to the state that it came from, and say, look what happened in your state, and you need to put some backing in it. So,
are there other topics you would have liked to have presented?
I feel like we really benefited from even the workshops today, or this visit, with you know, the reference to the tipping point, and that 365-degree feedback is really, I thought that was a great process, and it really was eye-opening, I think. But one thing that I think we might want to add is maybe some project management tools and resources.
Very good.
Because I think, you know, we all kind of felt like, okay, I've got to get this done. I've got to get this, you know, and you and Janice with all your emails, and Sherilyn, you all kept us on track. But, you know, it would be great to have some project management tools so that we can, you know, keep ourselves on track when you guys are gone.
Okay. Very good. Any other things that you would want to include or raise the bars, thinking out of the box? Are we far enough out of the box? We're in the box? We need to get out of that box.
That's a good idea.
Corey, I see you have the mic.
I was just going to say, again, gaining a community perspective. And if there were, man, the idea about the pastor in Possum Rock or wherever, what I mean, that's what I'm talking about. He's a guy out there that's doing it. And I think that more perspective in regards to how state agencies, county agencies, private agencies can partner with community, you know, people, both private, public, corporate, whatever. I think that agencies miss the boat when we don't tap into the resources that are right in our own backyards. And so I think that getting more perspective and training and that kind of thing about how to facilitate that would be valuable.
Kind of what's really happening out here and having some of those spokespersons.
I know we were just joking about the president-elect's house, but that'll work. However, I want to say that this city is rich with resources, and when Maldi comes to town, our legislators need to know we're here. Mm-hmm. It should be applauded. It should be celebrated. Legislative aides need to be present. Somebody needs to pass the gauntlet on to the legislators so that they can understand adoption in our states that we represent.
Oh, boy.
It's fertile ground. Mm-hmm. And so when Maldi comes to D.C. needs to know that you're here.
Excellent.
Press releases and everything else. You have states representing here in D.C. talking about the state of children in need of a home. A press release to say that there are over 150,000 plus children waiting for homes. The state of disproportionality in D.C. and abroad across the United States. Now, that's what you call thinking outside the box.
I like it. I can handle it. Sharon? Yes.
Keeping in line with that same theme, engaging NGA, the National Governors Association.
Okay.
You know, right here in the backyard, their office is located here. Engage. I mean, I know that there's a lot of legislators who are off already on their holiday, you know, but NGA is here, and how could we share this information? States are always willing and needing to learn from their sister and brother states, and that's a key way to do that. The other thing is the National Council on State Legislators. That's a key, critical piece that they should be involved in this. as well as the organization. And I'm trying to think of what it's, uh, social policy, Houston Hudson
Okay.
is the director of of the Child Welfare Policy Division. I'm trying to think. Center for Social Policy. Yes,
Okay.
yes. That they have many opportunities. Yes, they're right here.
Okay.
That there are just key, that this is a convening that happened here, and just because there's only X amount of 8 presenters, it was nonetheless a convening
Yes.
of states with critical information to share. There were critical teachings and learnings that happened here. And how do we take that information and make it bigger than the folks who were in this room? And I know you're going to do it in your own state, but this is a state's issue. And states learn from states. And how do we take this and kick it up 15 levels so that governors have that information, aides have that information. They're looking at what to do. There's a small pot of money. Well, here's some critical, already thought out, process worked out pieces that they could look at making systems change.
Absolutely.
Because that's what the information that came here. And in the previous Maldi, systems change.
Yes.
Clear places where legislative change could be made to make differences in the lives of children. You talk about Public Law 110-351, fostering connections. There were lessons learned in these presentations over these last 2 days that could jumpstart that next piece of legislation for children and child welfare.
Excellent.
I think, too, we could look at someone from the Coalition for the Adoption Institute.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a lot of people's ear. And I think it would be great for a representative from that coalition to be here.
Coalition for?
The Congressional Coalition for Adoption Institute.
Congressional Coalition for Adoption. Yes.
I'll just say on that they've contacted me recently because they just had a change in leadership. So I'll make sure to talk to them about it when I meet with them. So that's a really good idea, actually. Yeah.
You have one more?
With the Congressional Black Caucus, and I used to have that guy's contact number. I have sat down and met with them regarding the disproportionality of African American children and tried to actually get on the agenda so that I could address the entire party. And boy, oh boy, it must have been Fort Knox because they were not having it. And so it was very disheartening, but perhaps with a stronger group, the representation, then it may be easier to have that, because I really believe that it needs to be their priority, because it's African American children we're talking about. And as they're talking about poverty, which is one of the things that's underlying a lot of the issues of our children coming into care, then it needs to become a priority of the Congressional Black Caucus. And then a lot of the states also have black caucuses as well, that we really need to begin hitting them. I think we've started some kind of a new project here today. Seems like somebody's impregnated something new. But I think that there's a movement that needs to go on, because with the economic crisis going on and states now not having any money, the first thing that goes away is money for kids. And so our need for services is going to increase, but there's not going to be additional funding in order to work through those issues. And so I think that we have to be able to keep it in the front of our legislators so that that doesn't happen when it comes down the pike.
Very good. One more comment. I know everybody's waiting for lunch. Did you have a comment? I have one here.
Invite more people to see our presentation.
Okay. Tell us about ourselves, won't you? Did you have another comment? One more.
I just want to make sure, I know this is already being thought about, but I just want to get it on the flip chart. I really would like for this opportunity to be available to all states on an annual basis. I do think that disproportionality is an issue in just about every urban area. And so to a lesser or greater degree. So this opportunity is critical. And as budgets get tight, so do the professional development opportunities. And we're not doing this, we're not giving birth to some of these practices. Great ideas are being implemented throughout the country. And without a forum like this, we don't learn about them many times. And it's very easy for states like Arizona to become an island and isolate themselves. It's very easy for us to do that. But this has been an excellent opportunity to learn new practices, and Linda and I have been jotting things down, and we're fired up, and we really do want to try some new things as soon as we get back. So
Wonderful. One more comment for real. This is the
For
last
real.
one.
I think each presenter said it, but on behalf of all of the mentees and the mentors, we just want to say what an exceptional team you all are at Maldi. And thank you for this opportunity. Exceptional, all of you. Thank you.
Well, aren't I glad I picked her? Let me just say that ultimately everybody in this room has a huge responsibility for moving Maldi forward. And one of the things I would like to suggest that's just coming to me is that we really talk about you publishing your results. You should really get in the juried literature, because that's really a lot of times where the conversation gets bigger. There are some audiences that will accept your findings better once you go through that whole process. So I think in future institutes, we should probably talk more about that. But let me encourage you, you've already got an article. Everything that we've given you in the action research format is already ready. Everything that you talked about is really how you prepare an article for a juried publication. So I want to hear from you in 12 months. I want to hear that you're pushing that gear. That's each of us pushing that gear forward. And I want to hear and read more about the exciting work that you are doing. You've certainly changed my work. I've got a lot more responsibilities of things I've got to do with the NRC, and you've informed each and everything that I have to do. So I thank you and I congratulate you, and I look forward to hearing more from you.